Hello and welcome to the first ever 0.99 Vodcast. Really strange saying that. And it's been the third attempt to get this out. I thought it would be safest to retreat to the summer house here, and as you can hear the audio is not amazing, a little bit echoey, but it's better than the two failed attempts. I've decided with season 2 that I would diversify and bring another angle to the podcast in the form of the Vodcast, especially seeing how awesome some other Instagrammers are with their videos, their reels, their stories, their YouTubes. In the case of Running with Steven, Running with Steven's videos are amazing, and it really gave me an encouragement to document my training, some of the behind the scenes stuff with the podcast, and give you guys an insight as to the preparation that goes into running a podcast, but also the preparation I'm doing towards marathons like the Amsterdam Marathon. Typically, there's a thunderstorm right now, so hopefully the audio quality isn't too bad. I'm sure I'll find out when I come to edit this, but apologies if there's any difficulties. But what am I going to cover in episode 1? Well, I wanted to cover a little bit about myself for anyone that stumbles upon the video, stumbles upon the channel, wants to know what the 0.99 podcast is, who am I, a little bit of background. I also want to cover some issues in my real life just now that some of the listeners might not know about, and I'm always open and honest about health, about mental health, about a whole multitude of things. So really just to give a little bit of more of an insight to myself, and then also give an insight into season 2 of the podcast. I know I've made a few little announcements already. I'm going to be making another announcement later today. This is recorded on Tuesday the 20th for clarity. It's probably not going to come out then. But yeah, here goes. Kick things off with who am I? My Instagram handle is Mr_Steve_runs, the host of the 0.99 podcast, and it's a running podcast for runners by runners. Unfortunately, that has to change. That's going to be a running podcast for runners by a runner. I had a co-host for season 1, and unfortunately, my fellow Steve, Runnerman Steve, has had to take a step back from the podcast for the time being, so I'm flying solo for the time being. The biggest thing for me is just the nerves of doing solo interviews with guests, and also changing the podcast format from bi-weekly to weekly. So instead of 20 weeks for 10 episodes, it's going to be 10 solid weeks of episodes. But I'm looking forward to that challenge. I'm looking forward to the opportunities that it'll hopefully bring, and the conversations that I'm going to have along the way. Season 1, we covered a little bit about myself, and in the last year or so I've had a few health issues and suspected worries and concerns, and had to go through a few checks. For anyone that follows my Instagram page, they will know that I am a charity runner for a lot of events for a charity called Cojones Scotland. I was a runner and cyclist for the charity before I had any connecting reason to know them, but yeah, I had a bit of a scare last year to do with an issue that some guys have to deal with. I had an issue. I don't shy away from it, but thankfully everything came back fine. I had an ultrasound, or a couple of ultrasounds, and that was all clear. It was very concerning at the time, although I'm generally a pretty positive and pretty cheery guy, I would like to say, at least I'd like to think. It did play a kind of a bit on my mind. It's definitely a worrisome subject, and if you are a guy, or whether you've got a partner, a male partner, or even if your family, encourage your male friends and male family members to make sure they're checking themselves. But enough about that, we're not going to dwell on that too much. Part of the checks that I had though at that time, they did find a tumour on my liver. Did shrink of its own accord over 6 months, but again, it was a little bit of a concern. I still tried to stay as positive as I could be, because at the end of the day, what can I do about it? Very little, and the medical professionals are there to support and help you wherever they can. But the way things go, you're never clear for long, and I do now have another issue to worry about. It's not as big of an issue as, say, the other two last year, but it's still related to the big C. So I will be getting checked out once again by a completely different line of specialists. So I would encourage everybody, and this goes for the podcast, but this goes for life as well, in a real life vlogger's perspective. If you have any health concerns whatsoever, especially in the UK, in the United Kingdom, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, England, wherever you are, make use of the National Health Service, the NHS. Sure, we have our difficulties, it doesn't always run as smoothly as it could, but so far, touch wood, I've had no issue with them. They've been fantastic through any concern that I have had. They've been very speedy, very attentive, and I can't praise the staff that I've dealt with enough. So be in tune with your body, especially as an athlete. It's really important to listen to your body. If you have any concerns, go and get them checked. But on to the podcast. Like I say, it's a running podcast by a runner for runners, and yeah, like I say, season 1 was a mixed bag. It was really interesting, having never done a podcast before, and to jumping in feet first with MrSteve. It was a really steep learning curve, but man, we had a great time. We had a laugh, we had some awesome guests. 4 guests in season 1, a lot of information about myself, MrSteve, our marathons that we ran during the course of the 20 weeks of the podcast season 1. And it's really boosted my confidence. Not so much that I can record like this in public, but it really did wonders for my confidence, ability to talk to people, and just generally improved my understanding of running, and respecting running, especially marathon distances. And now what I'm looking at, ultra distances, respecting the training that goes into it, the nutrition, the strength and conditioning. I knew about a lot of this before, but I really, hand on heart, really disrespected it a lot of times. My first marathon, it was a disappointment to me originally, because I hadn't respected the distance. I hadn't done everything in my plan. I'd really dodged things, and yeah, you live and you learn. And hopefully, throughout the course of the podcast, I can spread some of the lessons I learned for people to then learn themselves, find what works for them, and really be the best athlete that they could possibly be. But what can you expect from season 2? Well, much the same, hopefully, as season 1, just with more confidence and more awesomely great guests. That's going to be a massive part of season 2, especially being a single host. I don't think anyone wants to just listen to me just nattering on for what is likely to be half an hour to an hour at this rate, down from an hour and a half to 2 hour podcast where you have someone to bounce off of. It was chaos, it was chaotically diverse, we had tangents left, right and centre, but yeah, I'm relying a lot on guests and having the ability to bounce off them. Now I do have quite a lot of guests lined up already and confirmed. I've confirmed who the first episode and the last episode guests are. So once again, for anyone that hasn't heard or stumbled upon this video, I have the amazing Emma Joy, Lipstick and Trainers, as my first guest. Now I'm a friend of Emma's, she's fantastic, she's super inspirational, and I can't wait to have a chat with her once again. We're going to be chatting about her current love for triathlons. We're going to talk about some of her past, how she got into running. I don't want to dwell on too much of her past because she has been on other podcasts. She has been on the What the Fartlek podcast, and always worth checking those guys out. They've got YouTube, they've got TikTok, they've got all sorts, and they're fantastic. They're really a big inspiration as to why I now do the Point 99 podcast. But she had a fantastic chat with them a few seasons ago for the What Fartlek seasons, and you learn quite a lot about her story there. So I want to touch on her future, what she's currently doing. Triathlons is her new love, and I want to find out about how her current triathlons have gone, her more recent ones, and what she's looking forward to in the future. We'll also touch upon the Loch Ness 24, the inaugural event, which she came up with her partner and took part with myself, Lee and Jamie, who were members of the team. For any of the regular listeners, they'll know who they are. And yeah, find out what she thought about the event and what she thought about me. Honesty, it's all about honesty. But with a fantastic season opener, we need an equally awesome season finale, and they don't come much better than Omar Runs Napa, Omar Stanley Pessoas. Omar and myself have followed each other for a very, very long time. Almost 2 years since I've had this account, and I think I followed him prior to that on my personal account. Omar is a superb influencer, motivator, and just generally all-round inspirational individual. I can't wait to speak to Omar, learn a little bit about his story, where his background in running and fitness lies, because he's absolutely shredded. He is one fit guy and always has a smile on his face. He's got some really, really inspirational and funny content on his Instagram. Between himself and Emma, I can't encourage everyone enough to follow these individuals, show them the love, and really get on board with what they're preaching. But episodes 1 and 10 may be organised, but what about the other 8 episodes? Well, already I have episode 2, 3 and 4 secured. The recording dates are booked. They are going live on certain dates. I'm actually going to be putting the timeline for season 2 out in the next few days. But who are these individuals? Well, I have a man who has just hit the wall being an ultra event. I want to say it's 70 miles. It's something crazy like that, and it is the Pole Fit Ultra Runner, Mike. Massive supporter of the podcast. I'm actually meeting Mike, hopefully, fingers crossed, this weekend. We're going to be going to the Muse concert in Glasgow. Just so happens we're going to be at that, not together, but we're going to meet up. We're going to get a face-to-face. And I can't wait to meet Mike. He's been so supportive for not only myself, but the podcast, and for Runnerman Steve. So I can't wait to share his story, find out a little bit more about ultra running, but also, more importantly, pole fit from a man's perspective. But how do you follow up ultra runner? Well, with another ultra runner. I previously mentioned the Mexican señorita Carmonia Tanya. She is going to be running this weekend an ultra event on the south coast, on the Jurassic coast. I can't say how far it is. I think it's 100 miles. I am absolutely atrocious as a podcast hostman. I don't remember that sort of information. But yeah, we're gonna have Tanya as our episode 3 guest. Really, again, I'm so excited to speak to each and every guest that I've lined up already, and the ones that are lined up but not fully confirmed yet. But Tanya, she is, like, from checking out her blogs, her website, her Instagram, she is so inspirational. She's completed events all around the world. She's always positive in her content, always has time for the other members of the community, as do all the guests mentioned so far. I'm looking forward to finding out a little bit more about Tanya's adventure. But episode 4's guest is no less of a supporter of the podcast, and once again I am super happy to have booked this individual for episode 4. Can't wait to find out more about his story, and it's Patrick Watkins. Patrick, or P Watkins _13 on Instagram. Now Patrick has been so supportive again for myself. He's been in my DMs supporting me. When he sees that I've had maybe an off day, maybe I haven't posted in a few days, he is there. He's there as my support. He's a rock for the community and an all-around, like, just awesome guy. For Patrick, he has recently undertaken the Copenhagen Marathon. Now he doesn't shy away from the fact that it maybe didn't go quite the way that he hoped it would, and we're going to learn a little bit more about that in the discussion. We're going to find out more about Patrick's mental health, everything. I think with all guests we're going to speak about their training, their mental health, how they deal with marathons, ultras, and find a little bit more about their history in sport. Tanya is the Mexican señorita. Patrick is based in Maryland, so we are going international in season 2. As I say, followed a lot of these individuals for some time. I communicated with them, and I'm looking forward to really touching base, learning a little bit more about their histories, and really just conversing with them on an audio base rather than just a text base. It's going to be really, really cool. And yeah, looking forward to it. Who else can you look forward to? Well, it's still some confirmations to take place, and I've mentioned it in season 1 of the podcast. I've mentioned it in stories and on content for the podcast. There's going to be a few companies involved in season 2, some chats with some event organizers, especially the absolutely amazing event that I'm taking quite a large team to, the Loch Ness 24. Hopefully I'll be speaking to not only Jono but maybe Jess as well from their corporate communication team. They put some awesome content out, and I'm looking forward to touching base with them again. I met them last year. They're awesome individuals. And I want to hear a little bit more about how the event is panning out, how they found last year as the inaugural event, and what they're hoping to achieve in 2023's event. But over and above that, I currently have a giveaway going on, which does give one lucky winner entry to the Loch Ness 24, but also it gives some awesome apparel from the runner team and the team over at Trainer Armor. I had to think about that one. So both Runner and Trainer Armor are going to come on in separate episodes. So that's another 3 episodes right there ticked off. But over and above that, anyone that follows my running adventures knows that I quite often wear the Ugoku run cap, trail caps. They're also going to come on and speak to us. Unfortunately, they're not involved at the Loch Ness 24, and I have no direct involvement with these guys at the moment, other than I buy their products, I love their products, I wear their products. So I want to learn a little bit more about Ugoku, the run caps, how they were founded, what their plans are for the future, what designs are their favourites, what they're hoping to produce going forward. So learn a little bit more in that way, and also learn a little bit about how they got into the running scene, what their running histories are, and anything that's just connected to the awesome running community. But in and around that, I do have 2 more, I think it's at least 2 more, I've lost count of that now, individuals, not companies, that I want to just finalise before I announce them. And if it is this season or next season, whoever they are, I've got a whole bank of people that have agreed to come on, but when and where is another question. I do have enough to do a season 3, we're going to see how season 2 goes first. But yeah, looking forward to getting the final 1 or 2 signed up, and I can get the full list out to you guys, the listeners. But for the rest of season 2, and being that my training for Amsterdam Marathon starts very, very soon, I'm going to be documenting videos on each week from week 1 to week 16. Now I'm going to do a 16-week program this time around. For my past marathons, say my first and second marathon, I did 12-week programs. Worked a lot better for my second marathon than it did for my first marathon, but I'm going to do it really, really sensibly this time. I'm going to work the full 16-week program, and with that it's going to be 16 weeks of blood, sweat and tears. I know that already, and I'm going to share it with you guys on YouTube. I'll also be sharing how the Loch Ness 24 goes. I'm going to be doing a recce with some of the members of the team next month in July, so I'll share some of the footage from that. But I'll also share a lot of the footage from the event itself. We'll make an episode out of that, and hopefully have a great laugh as we do it. I really do believe we're going to have such a fun time. Now we have like 25 members of the team, 2 of whom, myself and Ryan Miller of the Press Play and Run podcast, our podcast hosts. We're going to get a lot of content out of this. We're going to milk it for everything it's worth. Now finally, I think it's really important to go back to what I was saying originally. Throughout the whole adventure, I'm going to focus on mental health and physical health, listening to my body and encouraging people to go and find help when they need it. Whether it's reaching out to myself, reaching out to the podcast, reaching out to members of the community for questions and concerns, but where also necessary, going to your doctor, going to your GP and asking all the important questions where you need to. I know for me, my mental health can sometimes dip if I don't run as much as I'm used to. Now that's maybe an unhealthy connection I have with running and mental health to clear my head, but it's something that I'm really familiar with. I know that that's a connection. I have ways of coping with it. Otherwise, I don't have to run to stay sane. Let's put it that way. But it really does help. It helps to be out in the fresh air, it helps to cleanse the soul and also cleanse the body. But yeah, that's effectively what I'm aiming to do with the YouTube channel, with the podcast. Just be honest and connect with you guys, and not always wear these really odd reflector glasses. I just find it very difficult to look at the camera. Although I used to like Twitch stream, you'd think I'd be used to this by now, but yeah, I don't have googly eyes on this camera, which really does help. But let me know what you think. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say, what you want to learn about behind the scenes of the podcast, what you guys want to hear on the podcast. Any questions that I might be able to put towards some of the guests, or anything else that you might be able to throw at me. So whether you're running, whether you're cycling, or whether you're wild swimming, whatever you are up to, I hope that you're having an awesome time, that you're in a great mental space. And yeah, let me know what you think, and we'll see you soon.